What does the Constitution actually provide about the right to go to the streets, the right to go protest and demonstrate? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Of course, on Tuesday, Parliament will be voting for the Finance Bill rather. And if it's successful, of course, all those taxes that we've been talking about, they then become the new taxes. And it's a crazy time to be a Kenyan. But on the same Tuesday, a protest has been planned. Okay, there's a protest that has been planned on Tuesday. So we're going to be talking about the right to protest, the pros, what the courts have said about what needs to be done, what cannot be done. And to just answer the question, can the government actually step in and say, no, you cannot protest? Can that be done? So, but thank you for joining us. Share that link, send it out wide as we just take this dive. And of course, as you know, the first half hour of our show, we just take time to feature artists. Today, we want to feature patriotic songs, okay? Because those who protest in this country, those are the patriots, manze, because they're saying we're not happy with the state of affairs, we're not happy with the way things are, and we're taking a stand against that. So let's go. Flows in the studio with me. Let's get some music. This is Pawa Radio.
Pawa Radio. Tune in and power up.
Kenya inchi yangu, Kenya inchi yangu iliyo uhuru. Inchi iliyo uhuru, toka sasa mpaka milele. Kenya inchi yangu, Kenya inchi yangu naichelea. Katika maisha na nguvu zangu zote, Kenya inchi yetu, Kenya inchi yetu ya kibinadamu. Twaichelea inchi yetu, maridadi yenye upole. Kenya inchi yetu, Kenya inchi yetu ya undugu. Kenya twakupa maisha yetu yasio na mwisho. Kenya inchi yangu, Kenya inchi yangu iliyo uhuru. Inchi iliyo uhuru, toka sasa mpaka milele. Kenya inchi yangu, Kenya inchi yangu naichelea. Katika maisha na nguvu zangu zote, Kenya inchi yetu, Kenya inchi yetu ya kibinadamu. Twaichelea inchi yetu, maridadi yenye upole. Kenya inchi yetu, Kenya inchi yetu ya undugu. Kenya twakupa maisha yetu yasio na mwisho. Kenya inchi yangu, Kenya inchi yangu iliyo uhuru. Inchi iliyo uhuru, toka sasa mpaka milele. Kenya inchi yangu, Kenya inchi yangu naichelea. Katika maisha na nguvu zangu zote, Kenya inchi yetu, Kenya inchi yetu ya
Okay. That's a walk down memory lane. Kenya nchi yetu. We're talking about the right to protest. Remember, the Constitution of Kenya actually guarantees certain rights, and one of those rights is your right as a person to actually say, "Hey, I'm not happy with how things are happening, and I have the right to express. My God, I have the right to express my displeasure with that." So, that's what we're going to be talking about today. And of course, Flozy is not happy with my music choices. So nimeamua hiyo kazi niachie tu director. Acha director afanye kazi yake. Na sisi kazi yetu ni kuongea. Ama namna gani? So let's get some music. But remember, let me just begin with what Article 37 of the Constitution of Kenya says. Article 37 says that every person has the right, peaceably and unarmed, to assemble, to demonstrate, to picket, and to present petitions to public authorities. That's what Article 37 of the Constitution of Kenya provides. And so we're going to be looking at this because I know that on Tuesday, when Parliament will be dealing with the question of the finance bill, there's a planned protest on Tuesday, okay? So what actually does the law provide? We also are going to be looking at some of the cases that have gone to court, and then we see what the courts have given us guidelines for when you go out to protest. You have to remember, of course, that the right to demonstrate, the right to picket, the right to protest is not an absolute right, all right? It can be limited in some instances, but it can only be limited on legal and lawful grounds. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. But for now, let's change that music completely. Let's get something bumping in here in studio. And thank you so much for joining us. We have a lovely day here. I'm looking out the window, and as always, I am always saying it's that shorts and sundress sort of weather. So I hope you're having a nice and a lovely Saturday wherever you are. Thank you for joining us on this. This is Sheria Dive, and let's go.
Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Pawa Radio.
And a very good welcome to all of you. This is Sheria Dive right here with me, James and Jerry, on Power Radio, where we just talk deep law stuff. We're not about surface knowledge, we're about just getting into the thick of it to understand what is the law, what are the provisions in the law. And today we're talking about the right to protest. I'm sure Kenya is a country of protests. You know, people are protesting everywhere. Okay? Those of us who remember the 90s, okay, and Gen Z, this is the time to take out your notebook and, write this down. But the 90s were a period of great protest because in that period, we had a lot of people actually fighting for the expansion of the civic space, right? Because we used to have a president called Moi who had decided that he's going to rule this place like it's his Boma. So people are not allowed to speak freely. People are not allowed to read certain books. People are not allowed to even, those days, as a matter of fact, being found in possession of, let's say, a book written by Karl Marx or a book talking about communism, you would be taken to jail and you'd be taken to the torture chambers and you'd be detained without trial. So with that background, Kenyans took up that right to protest seriously and would always go to the streets to fight for one thing or the other. And eventually, of course, that culminated in the Constitution of Kenya that came in 2010. But of course, since then, it doesn't mean that simply because we got the Constitution now, there are no more protests. Because remember, there's always be something to be pissed off about when it comes to being governed in this country. So on Tuesday, there's a protest that has been planned. And I know even as we look to that, we have actually seen some protests. I remember every time before it's an election year, there are always these sorts of rallies and protests, and it can get really nasty. Okay? So as we talk about the right to protest, is it an absolute right? Is it a right that cannot be limited? Or is there an instance where that right can be limited? That's what we're going to be talking about today. But remember, the first thing to actually understand is that under Article 37 of the Constitution of Kenya, every single person has a right peaceably and unarmed. Now, that's a very big condition, okay? And it's a serious condition that when you protest, it has to be a peaceful protest and you have to be unarmed. The Constitution does not see a situation where ati umeenda protest na umebeba mawe ama umebeba panga ama rungu. There is no need for that when you go for a protest. So the idea is that as far as you are leading a protest in Kenya, you're taking part in a demonstration in Kenya, it has to be a peaceful one and you have to be unarmed. Of course, this has not always been followed, right? Because we know how things get. Sometimes watu wanaanza kuiba, shops are broken into, people are beaten up, people are maimed. I think I remember in 2022 when you're getting to the election period, you'd always just see watu wamepigwa nyongolo manze. And I always remember, I think one of the saddest things I remember is around 2022 when you're in that election period. I remember, do you guys remember the story of the matatu on Ngong Road, just at Posta, Posta on Ngong Road? The matatu was coming from Ngong, it was going to town. It was stopped by protesters. And I just remember the guys who were in the matatu getting off the mat, running, like it was a very chaotic scene. And I remember one elderly lady who I saw alitoka mbio manze. And of course online on Twitter, it was funny and everything, but I just looked at that and I wondered to myself, hey, what's happening in this country? Like, tumefika aje hapa? So we've also seen the nasty and the dark side when people actually take up the protest without following what the legal provisions are. So we're going to be looking at that. But in addition to that, this is the right number one to assemble. What does to assemble mean? It means that you and I can decide tuende tu site hao na tukwe watu 10, tukwe watu 20, watu 30, watu 50, watu 100. The right to assembly is guaranteed. All right? Number two is the right to demonstrate. What do you do when you demonstrate? To demonstrate means you make your voice heard. Remember, this has to be peaceably and unarmed. Okay? So you can hold your banners, you can wear your t-shirts. In France, I've seen in France, you have these feminist rallies and protests where people even strip, okay? Just to bring attention to whatever it is that they're talking about or whatever it is that they want people to know, that this is what is going on. Sawa. So that is the right to demonstrate. The right to picket, okay? You go there na unakita kambi. I think one of the most famous picketing was Occupy Wall Street. If you can remember Occupy Wall Street in the United States, where guys went and they put up tents outside Wall Street because they were angry at how Wall Street had just messed up the economy. And those guys were still, making their money and everything was good with them. But the guys went there and they said, we are not leaving this place until something happens. Now, locally, I think one of the most popular picketers is Julius Kamau, who was actually arrested again. Julius Kamau is now at the police. He's actually at industrial area where he's been remanded. Because what happened is that when the Minister of Finance was going to take the photo outside the steps of Treasury, Julius Kamau, of course, jumped in and made and he protested and he made some noise about the fact that the taxes that are being imposed on Kenyans, it's actually taking us into poverty, and poverty is a form of control by those in power. So Julius Kamau was then arrested. So he's one of the most famous. The other time alikuwa hapo statue ya Dedan Kimathi. That's why he was standing and he was arrested again. Hey, Julius Kamau has seen industrial area prison more times than I don't know. I don't know who else has actually got into a place like that. So that is a right to picket. And of course, you also have a right to present petitions to public authorities, okay? You have a right to take your petition to whichever public authority. You have a right to take a petition to the president, a right to take a petition to the deputy president, to the speaker of the National Assembly, to the commissioner of police, to the chief justice, all these people. That is actually your right. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. And of course, we'll be looking at some cases. For instance, did you know that Boniface Mwangi actually sued the government about the right to protest? So that's what we're going to be looking at. But for now, let's get some music. Are we getting Winyo? Okay. So Fluzia said I had given her some music. She said, she was like, yo, bro, are you busy? It is not happening. It is not giving. So let's get some more music. And then when we come back, we continue having this conversation about the right to protest. But this is what I want to ask us. And you can, of course, reach out to us on the socials at Power Radio. And for myself, it's at James K. WaNjeri on the socials. And you can also go to YouTube where this is being streamed live. And we just like to see your comments there. And the question is this. As a Kenyan, okay, if you were to hold a protest today, what would you be protesting about? That's the question I'm asking today. As a Kenyan, if you were to hold a protest, what would you be protesting about? So let's get some music, and then when we come back, we continue having this conversation. Let's go.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
And of course, that's Fianza with Mwaki. Mwaki is that song that, for lack of a better word, it spread like wildfire. I know that's a bad pun. It's a bad dad joke, but it's mine. Okay, come beat me if you want. Today, we're talking about the right to protest, the right to picket, the right to demonstrate. And the question I'm asking is, as a Kenyan, if you were to protest today, if you were to lead a protest today, what would you protest about? Okay, that's the question I'm asking today. What is it that will take you to a protest? And DJ CJ had an amazing show earlier, the hip hop show, and DJ CJ says, for me, I would protest against high taxes and the theft of public resources. Okay, high taxes and the theft of public resources. That's a good one. Remember, you can give us your answer either by joining our live stream on YouTube and just getting into that chat section, or on the socials at Power Radio, and you're going to be highlighting those responses that you just give to us. Sawa. Now, in the year 2015, a gentleman by the name Boniface Mwangi, who many of you may know, went to court by a petition dated 7th December 2015. Why was he going to court? According to Boniface Mwangi, he said that he went to the OCS, okay, of Kilimani, and he sent him a notice, and the notice showed that there was going to be a public march and a demonstration to State House, Gate A, okay? So, he issued a notice to the OCS, Central Police and Kilimani Police on 3rd December 2015, and that notice stated that him and other people intended to hold a public demonstration that would start at Freedom Corner in Uhuru Park and later proceed to State House Gate A to deliver a petition to the President of the Republic of Kenya. Of course, in 2015, the President was Uhuru Kenyatta, okay? Now, according to him, the first place that he sent this letter was Central Police Station, okay? But the OCS of Central Police Station said, go and first serve the OCS of Kilimani Police Station, since that is where the demonstration was going to end, right? Now, and remember, at this time, the person who has been sent with the person who was sent with the notice to take the police was one gentleman called Brian Inganga. And Brian said that on reaching Kilimani Police Station, the OCS directed him to the office of the OCPD Kilimani. And the OCPD, upon reading the notice, declined to authorize the intended demonstration by indicating march to State House Gate A not allowed. Okay? So after that, he then went to court and said, I need the court to allow me to actually go ahead with this protest. Sawa? Now, one of the things he was asking for was the court first to give some orders. And one of those orders was that pending the hearing of that application, okay, that the court restrains the OCS Kilimani and the OCS at Central Police Station, okay, and the Inspector General of Police to be prevented from stopping or interfering in any manner with the assembly, demonstration, and presentation of a petition relating to the state of corruption to the President of the Republic of Kenya, okay, on December 9th, 2015, between 10 to 6 p.m. Sawa, between 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now, this is what the court said. Because of the urgency of the matter, the first thing the court said was, okay, that's fine. So what you're going to do, I'm going to allow you to go ahead with your protest. However, the petition will not be taken to State House, but will be presented to Harambee House, Harambee Avenue, which is where the president's office is at. Okay? Now, I can tell you this, on the 9th of December, the protest went ahead. However, it was broken up by police and tear gas was fired against all those who were at the protest. So we're using this case to just try and see, how does a court define the right to protest, the right to demonstrate? What are some of the considerations that a person needs to have? Okay? And remember, the question I'm asking today is, for everyone out there, as a Kenyan, if you were to get involved in a protest today, what would you be protesting about? If you were to get involved in a protest today, what would you be protesting about. And of course, remember, you can share your feedback with us on our YouTube chat, because we have a live up there. And of course, you can reach out to us on the socials at Power Radio. Let's go.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
That's my guy. You get my guy Winyo with Oriti. And he's just setting us up as we talk about the right to protest in Kenya. Now, the case we are highlighting is a case by Boniface Mwangi versus the Inspector General of Police. This is a case of 2015. And in this case, Boniface Mwangi was going to court to say, I want to march to State House, from Freedom Park in Uhuru Park to State House. And the police have said, no, you cannot. As a matter of fact, there was actually a letter that they had presented, a notice that they had presented to the police to tell them that, we're going to be doing this protest. And then what happened next? The police said, march not allowed, demonstration not allowed. And so they went to court to challenge this. And one of the first things the court looked at is, in Kenya, we have what we call the Public Order Act, okay? Now, Section 5 of the Public Order Act says that no person shall hold a public meeting or a public procession except in accordance with the provisions of this section, okay? Now, Section 2 says any person intending to convene a public meeting or a public procession shall notify the regulating officer of such intent at least 3 days, but not more than 14 days before the proposed date of the public meeting or procession. Now, of course, the Public Order Act in Kenya is the one that regulates matters of public order, okay? This is now the act that says what are the things that can be done in public and what are the things that cannot be done out in public. Now, according to the court, when you look at the Public Order Act, one of the first requisite steps to take when planning for any public gathering is to notify the regulating officer of such an intention, okay? Now, the notice should contain the following details. Number one, the full name and physical address of the organizer of the public procession, the proposed date and time of the procession, and the proposed venue or route to be taken. But now the argument by Boniface Mwangi in court was that actually, under the Public Order Act, Section 2, which defines who a regulating officer is, okay, the argument by Boniface was that the OCPD of Kilimani, who said no, okay, to this protest, is actually not a regulating officer as defined under that law, okay? Now, the court started by looking at what Section 5.8 of the Public Order Act provides. They're saying the regulating officer or any police officer of or above the rank of inspector may stop or prevent the holding of any public meeting held contrary to the provisions of subsection 206, and B, any public gathering or other meeting or procession which, having regards to the rights and interests of the persons participating in such gathering, meeting or procession, there is clear, present or imminent danger of a breach of the peace or public order. Now, what does this mean? It means that under Section 5 of the Public Order Act, there is actually the police officer that is in charge of the station for that particular area actually has the power to refuse or to turn down a protest or to refuse to give permission for a protest to be conducted. All right. Number one, if in the opinion it's being held contrary to the provisions of subsection 2, which we looked at earlier, or number two, when having regard to the rights and interests of the person participating in such gathering, meeting, or procession, the police are of the view that there is actually clear, present, or imminent danger of a breach of the peace or public order. So part of the argument has been, if you leave it that open, then it means that the government can easily go ahead and use that to ban any form of protest, because all they have to say is, we think this is going to create disorder, we think this is going to create public disturbance, so we are not going to grant permission for that. And now, that was the argument, okay? Now, this is what the court said. Taking into account all the provisions of the law above, it is clear to my mind that, number one, a regulating officer is an OCS and not any other police officer, including an OCPD. So by the OCPD banning that march to State House in December 2015, he had no power to do such a thing. So this just goes out to anyone out there, because remember, part of what we're doing is empowering you to know what needs to happen. Only the OCS is considered the regulating officer. The OCPD does not have that power. Okay. Number two, the court also found that the OCS can only stop the holding of a public meeting or procession for the reasons that are provided under Section 5, 4, and 6. Okay. Which is, number one, it is not possible to hold a public meeting or procession because of another public meeting or procession on the date, time, and the venue proposed has already been received by the regulating officer. So what are they saying? If the same time you want to do this protest, there's already another team that has also gotten, permission, or has also received a license or the go-ahead to have a protest or a procession done on the same day, at the same time, and at the same place, then the police, of course, can come into that. Now, for the above reason, if that should happen, then the public meeting is postponed to another date. Okay? Now, what is that role of that OCPD? Because remember what the court is saying, only the OCS can actually step in and say, you cannot go ahead and do this. The court says, I know no other law and none has been shown to me which grants an OCPD the power to make the above decision. And I say so because reliance on Section 58 of the Act is misplaced in that regard. Okay? Because that subsection relates to events occurring after the OCS has been notified of a meeting, okay? And they had no reason to postpone it. So, number one, the most important thing is only the OCS can turn down a meeting or a procession or a protest or a demonstration. So for all of us out there, if you ever want to go out on a protest, that is the first thing you need to realize, that you talk to the OCS. So of course, the question of the day is this. As a Kenyan, wewe kama Mkenya, if you were to protest about anything, if you were to protest about something, what would you protest about? Let's get some music, because after all, this is radio. So when we come back, we continue having this conversation as we look at this case of Boniface Mwangi versus the Inspector General of Police and what the law provides on the right to protest, the right to picket, and the right to hold demonstrations.
From sunrise to sunset, all day and night. Power Radio.
We will be okay. Oh, let's go.
And of course, that's Umenitosha. And I don't know if you're like me, eh? Umenitosha is one of those crazy online stories because I think what happened is that a producer put out a tune on Twitter and said, "Hey, I've been working on this thing. Can anybody put something on it?" This chick was just in her digs, akaskiza hiyo beat, then she was like, I could actually do something with this. She sang, and that's actually how Polaris came to be the singer of Unanitosha. It was just a thing that was pushed out online. So remember, if you're not taking your chances, they will not be taken by you. I don't know. It makes sense, Apo? Yeah. Take your chances, man. Take your chances. Bet on yourself. And of course, we're talking about the right to picket. Now, the second question that the court needed to ask is, if you go to the police and the police just stamp that document and say, no, you cannot protest, okay? Is that sufficient? Is that allowed? Now, in this country, there's something called administrative action. Administrative action basically is when someone in a position of authority, like in government, okay, or even in the private sector, they make a decision that affects your rights, okay? Once that decision is made, it's called an administrative action. Now, Article 47 of the Constitution of Kenya then provides that when an administrative action is taken against you, you have a right to be informed. You have a right to inquire. You have a right to know what are the reasons. Why did you actually arrive at this decision? What were you thinking about and all that, okay? Now, in this case, what happened? The OCPD simply said, march to State House, not allowed. No reasons were given. And so the second question that Boniface Mwangi was asking the court to answer is, are you required then under the law, right, as a police officer, as the OCS, as whoever you are, as you say no to the protest, are you required under the law to give reasons for that? And this was the answer of the court. Now, number one, Article 47 says, every person has the right to administrative action that is expeditious, efficient, lawful, reasonable, and procedurally fair. Okay? Number two, if a right or fundamental freedom of a person has been or is likely to be adversely affected by administrative action, the person has the right to be given written reasons for the action. So what does the court say here? That if you look at Article 47 and then you look at the Fair Administrative Action Act at Section 4, the government was under an obligation. They were under a duty to give a reason. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't just take no for an answer. You must be given a reason. Failure to give a reason for why a certain decision has been made by government or for why the government has taken a certain route in its decision making means that they have violated your human rights. So you, as a Kenyan, have the right to insist and say, give me a reason for why this decision was made. Okay? Now, it was very interesting because the police in court, what they said was that, hey, he could also have requested for the reasons. We didn't have to give the petitioner the reasons up front. And the court said, okay, come on. Why are you trivializing the requirement? Okay? Why are you trivializing the requirement under the law? Because simply what the police were saying is everybody knows State House is protected, so you can't just go there. And the police are like, the government was like, no. That's not how it works. The Constitution, as well as the Fair Administrative Action Act, provide in no uncertain terms that reasons must be given where the decision taken has an adverse consequence. And an adverse consequence necessarily or simply means when a negative decision has been taken, okay? You wanted a yes, you've been given a no. Once you get that no, you must be given reasons for that no. They are under a duty to give you that reason. And in this case, that was never done. And the court found that the petitioner's right to fair administrative action under Article 47(2) of the Constitution, as read with Section 4(2) of the Fair Administrative Action Act, was infringed by the OCS's failure to provide reasons for the rejection of the notice of an intending public demonstration. All right? When we come back, we're now going to be looking at what is the extent of the enjoyment of the right to assemble, of the right to protest, of the right to picket. Yes, it's not an absolute right. It can be limited in some instances. But what is the extent of that? How much interference, okay, or how much limitation is the government allowed to make? Remember, this is Sheria Dive, the show where we let you know what the law says so that as you make your decisions and as you go around, as you live your life, you ought to make sure that you use the law as a shield because the law is there to defend you. So, tyranny survives and exists in ignorance. And what we're here to do is to get rid of that ignorance when it comes to matters to do with the law. And of course, the question I've asked today on this show is, as a Kenyan, if you could go on a protest for something, okay, or against something, what is that one thing that would make you go on a protest in this country? And of course, I was highlighting how earlier DJ CJ was saying, bana, for me, it will be high taxes and the theft of public resources. That is enough reason for me to protest. So let's get some music, and then when we come back, we talk about the limitation of the right to protest. This is Sheria Dive with me, James and Jerry, right here on Power Radio.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
Tonight
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
Today we're just dedicating all this to the Unt gang. Yeah? Karibuni sana, karibuni sana. Now, we're talking about the right to take part in a protest, the right to take part in a demonstration in Kenya. Now, one of the things that the court was being invited to answer was, can someone actually take a protest to State House? Or is State House a protected area? Now, the court began by noting that the right to protest, while it is absolute, in some instances it will be restrained, okay? In some instances, that right will be curtailed. And different reasons will be considered. In this case, the petitioner wanted to go to State House Gate A to take their petition. But the court was also of the view that the person who you're taking the petition to is also someone who has an office at Harambee House. What is the nature of State House under the law? The court noted that State House is one of the protected areas. There's actually a legal notice listing State House as a protected area. So out there, whenever you want to put together a protest and you are saying, okay, the protest will go from point A to Z, you always have to ask yourself, the place that I want to take the protest, is that a protected area? And would that be a reason why I am denied the right to take my protest there? In such a case, if that happens, then you have to change tact and no, I cannot go into a protected area, because the law then would swoop in and restrain you from going ahead with that protest that you want to do. So what have we said today? Number one, you have to identify the right person who has to receive that notice. And what the law and what the courts have said is that that person is the OCS of that particular station. Number two, if they say no, they must give a reason for their no, because you have a right under the Article 47, right to fair administrative action. You have a right to be informed, to be told, hey, this is actually the reason why we've said no. And of course, remember, if you're not satisfied with the answer you've been given, you can always go to court. And number 3, as you choose the place of your protest, you have to ensure that it is not a protected place, okay? So that you can have free reign as you go there. But then this also helps you so that you don't have a situation where you go and then the police start giving you stories that, oh, this is a protected place. Then you're like, wait. How is that a protected place? Where is it provided for under the law? Remember, you have the right to ask questions. That's what makes us Kenyans, because the Constitution has given us the right to demand for answers and to ask the questions that will give us those answers. So, now, the question I've been asking today is, as a Kenyan, what is one thing that would make you go to the streets in protest? Or what is one thing that would make you protest? We had someone who sent in and said, I will protest against the high taxes and the theft of public resources. Remember, you can get your responses on our socials at Power Radio and at James K. WaNjeri. We'll be looking at that to see what is some of the feedback that you're giving us. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to a protest, There's a protest I went for in 2015. Manze tulichapwa tear gas. We started the protest at Freedom Corner. Freedom Corner is a part of Uhuru Park where you have some, there's some monuments there of freedom fighters, all that. So we gathered there and we started solidarity forever. Tuko hapo manze, tuko tayari tumevaa matisho. Say no to corruption. Tumekam kumaliza corruption manze. So tuko hapo. Hey! Kidogo tunaanza kuona kuna lori ya makarao imekuja na imemwaga makarao, but we are like, our protection is here. Wametumwa hapa kutulinda manze. They are not here to make life difficult. That day what the police did, you know, if you know Uhuru Park well, I don't know how Uhuru Park is now, but kitambo, there used to be at least 4 entrances to Uhuru Park. The first one was near All Saints, the All Saints Cathedral Church. There was a main entrance to Uhuru Park there, okay? Then there was another one at the roundabout, upper opposite Nyayo House, okay? There was another entrance there. Then there was another entrance pale near Intercontinental. You know Intercontinental Hotel? Apple, opposite Intercon, there was another entrance to Uhuru Park. And then, of course, there was the other entrance on the side of Haile Selassie. Okay, if you're coming from the Railway Golf Club, there's another entrance there. Manze, we didn't know, but the cops were mwagwad on all those entrances. Ikakuwa sasa hapa hakuna kutoka. Now, of course, wengine wakakuja wakaekwa. There's usually an exit from Uhuru Park to go all the way to Milimani Law Courts. Wakaekwa hapo. So anyway, us guys are there ready. We are fighting corruption. We are saying no to corruption in Kenya. We are saying corruption iende. So we were just hanging around there. Our numbers are building. Then tukaambiwa, comrades, it's time to go. Tukasema, tuende kazi. Tukaanza kumarch hapo Uhuru Park. Brothers and sisters, tear gas ile ilichapwa hapo. Suddenly, I was, hii imekuwa composition sasa. Ghafla bin vu. Tulijipata tumekuwa surrounded. You're in a sea of smoke. And it's smoke that is burning your eyes. I don't know if you've been in a protest, but tear gas, man, it burns your eyes, it chokes your throat. You're coughing and crying at the same time. And you're crying with your eyes closed because the more you open them, the more the tear gas gets in. You have snot coming out of your... As in, it's very confusing. And then the police decided, now it's time for the rungus. Where? Sili tuanze kutoka mbio sasa. Guys now try to run because you know where the exit is. Kwenda hapo unapatana na jeshi hapo ya GSC imesimama na marungu wanakungoja. When they see you approaching, now they come after you. So what they did is they contained us inside Uhuru Park. Tunapigiwa marungu huko ndani Uhuru Park manze. That was a very, very sad day of my life. And, tulichapo hiyo siku, as we say no to corruption in Kenya. And the reality is that under Article 37, we were within our rights. It was peaceable, Okay, we were unarmed. We were not harming anyone, not fighting anyone. I don't know why government always insists on beating up protesters. I've never understood that thing. Hatukuwa tunarusha mawe, hatukuwa tunapiga mtu. We're not stealing anything from anyone. But wacha nikwambie tuliekwa marungu. Ay. Tulichapwa. Let me leave it there. Let's get some music.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up. Your kind of music, all day, all night, right here on your only station, Power Radio. Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
And of course, we're just setting you ready for the weekend. We want to make sure you have that lovely weekend when do jibambe manze. But we're talking about the rights to, or the freedom that you actually have under Article 37 of the Constitution of Kenya to protest, to picket. Okay. Now, one of the big questions that we get in Kenya is, what is the appropriate force that the police should use when dealing with protesters? I've given you an example of myself. Me, I was there in the protest. I was not armed. I had no weapon. I was not throwing stones. We were just there to say no to corruption. Okay? But the police are the ones said no to us. We were beaten. Tear gas was used. So is it a must that every time there's a protest, the police must actually use their firearms, their rungus, and their tear gas? Now, Kenya, being a member of the international community, is also held under the United Nations basic principles on the use of force and firearms by law enforcement officials. And according to that international instrument, it says that in the dispersal of assemblies that are unlawful but non-violent, law enforcement officials shall avoid the use of force, or where that is not practicable, shall restrict such force to the minimum extent necessary. Okay? Avoid the use of force. And this is one of the things police in Kenya don't seem to understand. Avoid the use of force when dealing with protesters. Now, the National Police Service Act of Kenya, under the 6th schedule, provides that a police officer shall always attempt to use non-violent means first, and force may only be used when non-violent means are ineffective or without any promise of achieving the intended result. And number 2, the force that the police use shall be proportional to the objective to be achieved, the seriousness of the offense, and the resistance of the person against whom it is used. Okay? And it shall only be to the extent necessary, while, of course, adhering to the provisions of the law and the standing orders. So the police actually have rules that guide them on the use of force when they are coming to disperse a protest. And of course, ordinarily, illegal and unlawful assemblies are the ones that are disrupted. A legal and a lawful assembly, there's no reason why you want to disrupt it unless people are causing violence or unless people are causing chaos. So, sir, the Public Order Act as well says that the degree of force which may be used shall not be greater than is reasonably necessary for that purpose. Man, you know, I always remember that video of Reverend Timothy Njoya being beaten outside Uhuru Park by cops. You have like 10 cops around him with rungus beating one man who's on the ground. He's posing no threat to anyone. He's not attacking anyone. He's not fighting any of them. But there he is, beaten to a pulp. Man, I think the police of Kenya need to just smarten up. You know, wise up. Watch your pussy, manze. That's nonsense when you come to actually harm innocent and peaceful protesters, because the right to protest should not be treated, when you exercise that right, you should not be treated as a thug. You should not be treated as a criminal, because you are not a criminal. Now, should firearms be used? Should police be allowed to use firearms in protests? Okay? Now, in Kenya, firearms shall not be used unless weapons less likely to cause death have previously been used without achieving the purpose. And firearms and other weapons likely to cause death or serious bodily injury shall, if used, be used with all due caution and deliberation and without recklessness or negligence. I think I've had many stories of guys who are felled by stray bullets, especially that area of Ngara when police were always fighting hawkers. You just find a guy is in a matatu, amepigwa risasi, amededi bana. Carelessness by the state agencies and the police. So what the law actually provides is that as the police are carrying out their work, don't use firearms. And when you use those firearms, you first have to show that we tried other means, we tried to tell them to leave, we tried to disperse them, all this did not work, and the last thing we were left with was to use a firearm. Because remember, the only time, okay, a firearm should be used by the police is number 1, when saving or protecting the life of the officer or other person. Number 2, in self-defense or in defense of other person against imminent threat of life or serious injury. Number 3, in the protection of their life and property through justifiable use of force. Number 4, to prevent a person charged with a felony from escaping lawful custody. And number 5, prevent a person who attempts to rescue or rescue a person charged with a felony from escaping lawful custody. That is when the police are allowed to actually use their firearms. And the police have to actually show that their life is in danger. There's a threat to their life. And because of that threat to their life, then they have to take the action that they are taking. So, on Tuesday, there's a protest against the finance bill that is being voted upon. I've seen there's been an online and a digital protest where guys have put up the numbers of the members of parliament to try and tell them, hey, tuwezi tikio maneno bana, tumekataa. So, these are the rules that guide you when you go for a protest. Please, please, please do not take violence to the streets. Do not throw stones. Do not start fighting. Do none of those things, because your rights to protest are guaranteed under the Constitution of Kenya. And of course, with that, we come to the end of this show. Thank you so much for keeping us company and for being with us all through. It's now 5 minutes to the top of the hour. And of course, you know, there's a song which if you hear, unajua tu hiyo show imeisha hivyo manze. We'll meet you here next week. We'll be back here. Monday is a holiday, so we're going to be having our show. But we also meet here on Saturday, same time, 1 to 3. It's always a pleasure having you with us and just breaking some of these legal things for you in a way that you can understand. We love your feedback. We love hearing from you. And just to know, are you finding this is important? Is there anything we can improve on? So you can reach out to us on the socials at Power Radio, and you're going to just be paying attention to that. So for today, have a lovely weekend. God bless you, each and every one of you, wherever you are. And it's a long weekend, so please do not go to the police station unless you have to. Juu sasa kutoka manzeni hadi Tuesday morning. Kataa hiyo maneno. So sawa. Ja love, peace and love. Pamoja.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.
Tunapita kama moshi na kabla tuzame mchangani, kuna kushinda na kufeli. Inabidi ujijue tofauti ya mwalimu na mwanafunzi ni ujuzi na ujuaji. It's unbelievable that we make it this far. Undeniable, we see the promised land from afar, and it's so beautiful. No, they can't touch the fire, and you know it's not in vain. Steady tripping through the pain. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Oh Lord, steady rocking on the midnight train. Steady rocking on the midnight train. On the midnight train. Siku zazidi badilika, mengi yazidi kunipita jama. Oh no, maji yalipozidi unga, hawakudhani tutafika. It's unbelievable that we made it this far. Undeniable to see the promised land from afar. So beautiful, they gon' know who we are. They keep on walking in the rain. Kuna blessings in the pain. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Steady ready. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Oh Lord, steady rocking on the midnight train. To Zion, to Zion, to Zion. rocking on the midnight train. Steady rocking on the midnight train. Oh Lord, steady rocking on the midnight train. To Zion, to Zion.
Power Radio. Tune in and power up.